Good evening, class, and welcome to our performance management class for today. We are looking at marginal costing as our topic for today. Marginal costing methods. But before we go to the marginal costing method for today, we'll look at the question that I gave as an assignment, and only one person was able to submit. So we are going to do the correction for that assignment, and let's see how we fare on that. Okay, so this assignment is November, November 2017 question 3 assignment. So that's what we are solving today. Now, the question is asking us, I'll go straight to the requirements. It's asking us to, the A part is to use the traditional approach. So this traditional approach is called absorption costing. And what are we asked to do? To determine the direct labor hour rates for the company. Then the next thing now is to use the direct labor hour rates to compute the overhead rate attributable to a standard unit of standard and deluxe products. Then the C part is asking us to use the ABC approach to determine the cost driver rate. Then we compute the overhead rate for each unit of the product. Okay, so in this first place here, when they say direct labor hourly rates, it means direct labor rates per hour, and it's also called the overhead absorption rates. Overhead absorption rates, because it is based on direct labor. All right, so let's get this done now. So we'll start now with the name of the question here. This is ICANN. This ICANN. Why does this thing keep coming up? This ICANN. November 2017 question 3. All right. Now the name of the company happens to be XYZ Nigeria Limited. So we'll put that. This is XYZ Nigeria Limited. Now we are using the traditional approach, traditional absorption costing. This is what we are using now to find we are asked to look for direct labor hourly rates for the company. So we are looking for direct labor hourly rates, direct labor hourly rates. All right, so what do we do now? We'll bring the two products here, standard and deluxe. So we'll bring them and set them up here, standard and deluxe. So this is standard and this is deluxe. These are the names of the products. Now, how do we get the direct labor hourly rates? The first thing to do here is we are going to get what is it, the the total hours used for each of these products. I will put something here called total. So I will say total overhead. Total overhead happens to be, how much is it? 2,665,600. I will say 2,665,600. Now, I am supposed to divide this by the total labor hours. Now, the total labor hours is what we are going to calculate. How do we get the total labor hours? We are told here that direct labor time in hours for standard is 4. So what we will do now, we'll bring the direct labor time per unit. So we'll start with, for us to get this now, we'll look for direct labor hours per unit. Now for standard, it is 4. For deluxe, it is 5. So we have our 4 here, and we have our 5 here. So this is for just one unit. We are going to multiply this by number of units. So how many units are we doing for deluxe? Each of them is 24,000 units. 24,000 units each. So I will come here and say multiplied by 24,000. I will multiply here by 24,000. Okay, so what I will now do here is to bring my calculator up. I will say 4 times 24,000, and it gives me 96,000. I'll write this 96,000 here, 96,000, and I will come and do the second one, 5 times 24,000, and I have 120,000. I'll write it here, 120,000. 120,000. Now I will be plussing the two of them here to get the total, because I'm going to be dividing this by the total. So I already have 96,000 here. I will need to add my 120,000 to it, and it gives me 216,000. So I will come here, and this is my 216,000. This is in hours. This is in hours, and this is in hours. Mind you, this other one is in naira. So I have here my direct labor. Direct labor per hour will now give me, I have 216 here. Let me bring the other calculator. Okay, so I have 2,665,600 divided by 216,000, and it gives me 12.34. So 12.34 is my direct labor. 12.34 is my direct labor per hour. But what are we asked to find? We are asked to find the direct labor hourly rates for the company. So what we just did now, we've looked for the direct labor hour rate for the company. So the direct labor hour rate is this, and it's also called your overhead absorption rates. So this is what we are going to use for the company. Now, that is for the A part. We'll now move to the B. We are asked in the B to use the direct labor hour rates to compute the overhead rates, to compute the overhead rates attributable to a unit standard and the lot product. Okay, so look at what we are going to do here. So this is our B. Let's start the B on a different page here. This is our B. What are we asked in the B? To look for overhead rates for each unit. We are looking for overhead rates for each unit of products. That's what we are looking for. All right, so what we'll do now, we'll bring our standard here. This is standard, and this is the lot. All right, so that's our product. We'll start with this. Our direct labor hour rates. Our direct labor hour rate here is 12.34. So we have 12.34, 12.34. So now this is the rate per hour. Now we have total hours, for each product. Okay, so we have the hours already here. We have 96,000 and we have 120,000. So we come here, We are multiplying by 96,000 hours. We are multiplying by 120,000 hours. Now, when we multiply this, we are going to get the, let's do that now. We have 12.34 multiplied by 96,000. And we have 1,184,640. 1,184,640. 1,184,640. Now that is in Naira. We'll do the same thing here. Bring our calculator again. $12.34 multiplied by 120,000. And that gives us 1,480,800. 1,480,800. This is in Naira. Now, this is the total cost for each department. So I'll call it total costs for each product. For each product. Now, we want to look at number of units. So we'll divide by number of units. So we have divided by, we did 24,000 units. The same thing here, we did 24,000 units. So we are going to get our rates, direct labor rates per unit, which is what we are getting now. So let's do the first one. We already have 1,184,640. We simply divide by 24,000 and we have 49.36. So this is 49.36, 49.36. That's the first one. For the second one, we already have 1,480,800. So let's divide by 24,000 and we have 61.70. So 61.70. Now this is the answer to part B. Okay, so we'll go to the third part, which says determine the cost driver rate using the ABC approach. So in part C is to determine the cost driver rate. So I will come here. This is part C, cost driver rates using ABC. All right. So for us to do that now, we'll look at the cost drivers. So we'll look at them one at a time. Setup costs. Setup costs. So we'll say this is number one here. Setup costs. What is the cost for setup? It cost us 585,600. So 585 585 600. I think someone is asking a question. Let's see. I don't understand your question, Madam Macaulay. You got 49.36. Oh, no problem. We got the same thing, 49.36. It's fine. All right, so setup costs. We have our setup costs given to us. What is the cost driver? The number of setups. So we'll now go to this additional units, number of setup per batch. Okay, so we have number of setup per batch. So we need number of setups. So we will say setup per batch is going to be number of setup per batch. We have how many setups here? We have 2 and 6. Number of setups per batch, we have 2 and 6. So let me amend this to be number of setups. Instead of setup per batch, I will just do it straight. So we have number of setup here. We have setup per batch. We have 2 here. And with the other one, we have 6. Okay. So that's 2 and 6. For just one batch, we need 2 setup. For one batch of deluxe, we need 6 setups. How many batches do we have? How many batches do we have? Now, if you think that this batch size is the number of batches we have, you are wrong. Now, let me explain what these batch size units are. This batch size unit means how many units are in one batch. This is like you want to check a crate of egg. A crate of egg, or maybe a crate of mineral, let's say Coca-Cola, could be 24. That means one batch size unit is 24 drinks. That's what it means. Now, it means here that for you to get the batch size, let's do a little work in here. I'll do it here. I'll say multiply by the batch size. We don't know the batch size. But to get the batch size, you need to bring the total number of products, units produced, divided by the number of batch size units. This is 200, this is 2000, this other one is 100. So this is 2000 here divided by 100. Now what it means here is that if I have 24,000 pieces of mineral bottles lying on the ground, and I want to put them in the crate, which is the batch setup, which is the batch. I want to batch them in crates, and each batch or each crate can contain 2,000, and there are 24,000. How many crates will I bring? It means 24,000 divided by 2,000. That will give me 12 crates. That will give me 12 crates in the first instance. Then the second one, if it is 100 in a crate and I have 24,000, if I were to arrange them 100, 100, I'm going to get 240 crates. So that's it. So now let's calculate, let's do this. Let's finalize this. This will now become 585 600 divided by, now let's work this out. We'll say, let's do the division, then we'll multiply. 24,000 divided by 2,000, that is 12. That gives me the batch size, 12. Now 12 multiplied by 2 gives me 24. So here will be 24. So there's 24 setups here. Plus, let's do the second one. Second one, we'll say 24,000 divided by 100 gives me 240 crates or batches, and I'll multiply it by 6. That gives me 1,440. 1,440. Now, if I were to further do this, sorry, it's not 1,000. All right, so we have 585 600 now divided by, we are to add these two up. Let's add them up. 1,440 plus 24, that gives me 1,464. So I have 1,464. Now if I were to further divide this, I will say 585 600 divided by 1,464. And that will give me 400. That's my cost driver rate. So the CDR is 400 per setup. Now that's one of it. We'll go to the next one here. Number 2. It happens to be special parts handling costs. Special parts handling costs. So this is special parts handling cost driver rate. That is what we are trying to find. Okay, so how do we do that? Once again, we look at what drives it. Number of special parts. Okay, so we'll start with the cost. The cost is 480,000. So we will say costs. Let me use it here. 480,000. Then we will say special parts. Okay, special parts, what is it? They said number of special parts per unit. This is 2 and this is 8. So we'll open a bracket here. This is 2 and this is 8. We'll multiply, since they say it's per unit, we're going to multiply it by 24,000 units. multiplied by 24,000 units. And so this is 48,000 and this is 96,000. If we are to add them together, we will be having, let's see, 96,000 plus 48,000, 144,000. So we have our 144,000. And that's the number of special parts we need. So what do? We will say our cost driver rate will now be 480,000 divided by 144,000. So what would that give us? 480,000 divided by 144,000, and that gives us 3.333. Hold on, let me cross check all that we did here. Special parts 2 and 6, 2 and 8. Okay, let's be sure we've not done anything wrong. Let's be sure we've not done anything wrong. 2 times 24, 2 times 24,000 gives us 48. 8 times 24,000 gives us, oh, that is where the problem is. Do it again. 8 times 24,000, it gives us 192. I beg your pardon. 192. So we have our 192 here. And if we were to add it to 48,000, we'll be getting 240,000. 240 and not 144. So I'll clean here also. 240. So that's here. 240. Now use my 240 here again. That should be 3 zeros here. That's fine. 480 now. It's always good to use your calculator. 480,000 divided by 240,000. That gives us 2. That's more like it. So your cost driver rate is 2 per special parts. All right, that's for that one here. Yeah, someone just corrected me. That's 192. Thank you. All right, so the next one is the number 3. The number 3 is customer invoicing costs. So we'll say customer invoicing cost driver rate. Okay, now what's the cost? The cost is given to us as 232,000 232,000. 232,000. And that's the cost. Now, what's the driving force? Number of invoices. So we'll go to invoices. Number of sales invoices issued per year. We have 400 at 104.80. So number of invoices, number of invoices, we have 104.80, 100 plus 480, and that gives us 580. Now when we divide, we have 232,000 divided by 580, and we have 400. So our cost driver rate here, cost driver rate is 400 per invoice handling. We go to the second, to the last one, which is number 4. What are we asked to find? Material handling costs. Material handling costs. Material handling cost driver rate. Okay, so how do we do that? We look for the cost. What does it cost us? It cost us 504. 504. So we have costs 504. Then what is the driving force or the driver? Number of batches. Number of batches. How do we calculate the batches? We've done that before, but now let's do it again. Number of batches. Number of batches. So we have 24,000 all over 2,000 plus 24,000 all over 100. And that's giving us 12 plus 240. So 12 plus 240 is going to give us 252. So that's 252. So if this is 252 batches that we have there, our cost driver rate will give us 504,000 divided by 252. 252. Let me write this 5 well. 252. All right. So we have 504,000 divided by 252, and that gives me 2,000. So this is going to give me 2,000 per material handling. Then the last one which is number 5, is asking us for what? It's asking us for overhead, other overheads, and the cost, other overheads, and the cost is 864. Other overhead CDR. So we have costs 864,000. Now what is the driving force? Labor hours. Labor hours. Now what's our labor hours? We calculated it before, but we can do it again. This is 4 hours in 1 unit, 4 hours in 1 unit, and this is 5 hours for 1 unit. 4 versus 5. Direct labor hours. We have 4 multiplied by 24,000 plus 5 multiplied by 24,000. Sorry, somebody said material issued is 2 batches. I don't understand what you mean by 2 batches. Material issued. We are told here that, where is the 2? Where is the 2? Number of separate material issued per batch. Okay. They told us here that the cost driver is number of batches and not number of materials issued per batch. If they have told us that number of materials issued by batch, I would have gotten the batches, then multiplied it by 2. But the language of the question says number of batches. Okay, since it says number of batches, I'm using number of batches. It could be a mistake in the question, but we are solving it based on what we have here in the question. Okay, so what we have here is 4 times 24,000. That gives me 96,000 here already. This is 96,000. And I'm guessing the other one here is going to give us 120,000. We have 5 times 24,000. It's going to be 120,000. So we are adding these two together. What is it giving us? 120 plus 96,000. That will give us 216. 216,000. So I'm having my 216,000 here, which I will divide with this up one here. So I have 864,000 divided by 216,000. And that gives me 4. That gives me 4. So I will say this is 4 per direct labor hours. So this is my CDR. Now that I have gotten all my CDRs, I have done question number the third part of the question. Okay, now we are asked to look for compute the overhead rate per unit of each product using the ABC approach. Okay, so what do we do? So we are asked to look for overhead rates for each product. So we will now come here and say this is the D part. Is that the D part of the question? Yes, the D part. I will say this is overhead rate per unit of product. Then this is my, is this standard? And the other one is deluxe. Okay, so we'll start now with each one of them. Setup costs. So we'll say setup costs. What is their cost driver rate in setup costs? We have 2 per special parts. So we have 2. So this is going to give me 2. And this is going to give me 2 multiplied by the special parts. How many special parts do we have? Special parts. We have special parts per unit. Okay, we calculated the special parts before. Special parts happens to be, okay, sorry, this is setup. Why am I calling special parts? Number of setup. So the setup cost here is 400. So let's adjust that to 400. $400 for each case. What is the number of setups? Number of setup here, we have 24 and 1440. 24 and 1440. So this is 24 and this is 1440. So what do we have? 400 times 24, that gives me 9,006. Then the other one here is 400 multiplied by 1440, and that gives me 576,000. 576,000. Now, if we are to add these two costs together, I am not saying you should add them, plus 9,600, it gives you 585,600, which is what was here. We've succeeded in spreading it to the two departments. All right. Then the next one is special part handling costs. Special part handling costs. So I'll underline this double underline, showing that I've solved that. Special parts handling costs. What is the cost driver rate for special parts? We have them as 2. So we'll start, this is 2 multiplied by the number of special parts that we used. We have 48,000 and 192,000. So I will say this is 48,000. This is 192,000. So when we multiply them together, what do we have? We have 2 times 48,000. That gives me 96,000. And 2 times 192. 2 times 192,000. That gives me 384,000. So this is 384,000. Okay, we are done with that. The next one is going to be customer invoicing costs. Customer invoicing. So you will come here, customer invoicing. What is the cost driver rate? Cost driver rate is 400. So we will start with 400 each case, multiplied by what is the number of invoicing that we calculated. One is 100, the other one is 480. Let me see, 100 and 480. That's fine. 100, 480. So this, without calculating much, is going to give me 4,000. Okay, and this is going to give me, no, is it 4,000? 400 times 100 is 40,000. Sorry. So that's going to give me 40,000. And 400 times 480, 400 times 480 gives me 192,000. 192,000. All right. The next one will be material handling. Material handling. We will now say material handling. The cost driver rate. How did we calculate the first time? Material handling. We have 2,000. 2,000. And our batches are 12 and 240. So this is going to be 2,000 multiplied by 12 multiplied by 240. Okay, so let's calculate again. 2,000 times 12 should give me 24,000. This is 24,000. And 2,000 times 240 should give me 48,000 or 480,000. Let's see. 2,000 multiplied by 240, 480,000. 480,000. And now the last one is other overheads. Other overheads. Other overheads. And we have our cost here. Other overhead was 4. Is it 4? Yes, other overhead is 4. And we have 96,120. So this is 4 multiplied by 96,000 multiplied by 120,000. So that gives us 4 times 96,000 gives us 384,000. 384,000. Then this is 4 times 120,000. This is going to give us 480,000. 480,000. Now, after getting all this, you now have to arrange them together. You get your answer. So setup costs. What is the setup costs? Setup cost here 9,600 and 576,000. Then we have special handling. Special handling 96,384. Then after special handling, we have customer invoicing 40,192. 40,192,000. That's customer handling. Then the next one is material handling 24,000 and 480,000. 24,000, 480,000. This is material handling. And the last one is other overheads. Other overheads 384 and 480. So we have a 384,000 and 480,000. So this 480,000 appear two places. Oh, that's fine. Then what do? You total the. So let's total them together. I already have 480 on my calculator, so I'm going to start from under this deluxe. That will take it up. 480 plus 480 plus 192,000 plus 384,000 plus 576,000. Now that gives me 2,112,000. 2,112,000. Now I'm going to do for this other one. I already have 384,000 at the bottom of my calculator, so I will go from bottom up plus 24,000 plus 40,000 plus 96,000 plus 96,000. I have 640,000. 640,000. Now, before I do anything further, it is of interest to note here that if I have to add 640,000 to 2,112,000, it's going to give me the total overhead that we have been given before. So what do we now need to do? You will now divide by total units produced. So we are going to divide by, is this thing divide? So we are going to divide by 24,000 units, divide by 24,000 units. So when we divide, what do we have? Divide by 24,000 units, and we have 26.67. So this is 26.67 naira, and this one will give us, divided by 24,000, will give us 88. And so this is what we were looking for. So that's it. So that's what we are looking for. Now, if you are asked to do this question, and if you see how it is being done, look at the marking scheme. You will start to look at how you are being marked. Each of them, some of them will have one mark, giving you 3 marks. Some of them will have 1/4 mark. Now, it doesn't matter if you fail some of the answers, but it is a step that is having this marks, the steps that is having all of these marks. And so this is a total of 10, 12, 15 marks. This is a 15 marks question, and we just did, okay, it's a 20 mark question. It's a 20 marks question that we just finished doing, and we spent over an hour to do that. So that's for your past question assignment. So we can go over here now and say that we have actually done this. We've done this, done and dusted. Then this is no longer an assignment. We've done this. So now we'll go for something that we are to do today. And today we are going to be taking something called relevant cost analysis. Now, what is relevant cost analysis? Relevant cost analysis is important in short-term decision making. We need it in such decisions as limiting factor, make or buy decisions, shut down decisions. All of these are relevant to decision making. And at the heart of that is marginal costing. Now, how can you know which cost is relevant and which costs that are not relevant? Now, let's see. The relevant costs, we have variable costs. Variable costs are costs that are incurred with varying level of activity. If it means that if you spend nothing, If you produce nothing or you do nothing, you spend nothing. If you are to produce 10 loaves of bread, you spend small compared to someone spending on 100 loaves of bread. So it varies according to level of activity and it's relevant. Opportunity cost is the cost that you forego for another item. For example, some of us have forgone, we have deprived ourselves of certain things so that we can be in this class today. Now, that thing you deprive yourself of is the opportunity cost. If you are to use the money for your exam to go to the cattle ranch, or you decide to forego it so that you can write the exam, now that Ubudu cattle ranch is the opportunity cost because you choose to defer it. Now, for you to know your opportunity cost, you need to arrange all your options in scale of preference. And so, if Obudu Cattle Ranch is the second preference after your ICANN exam, that becomes your opportunity cost. Not the one following Obudu Cattle Ranch. No, it means that your scale of preferences, if you don't, if you have to do the first one before the second one, you have to do the second before the third. And so, if you are to forego your ICANN, what will you use the money for? For Obudu Cattle Ranch, which is the next one after it. But because you have done your ICANN, you forego Obudu Cattle Ranch, which is the nearest in your scale of preference. That's your opportunity cost. Then we have incremental costs. Now, incremental costs are costs that increases. This is now fixed cost that increases incrementally. Now, we talk about stepped costs. This is stepped cost here. Now, let's give an example. Now, we have a Zoom class here. Let's say a normal Zoom class can take 100 students. Okay, so if we have only 5 students in this class, it will not matter because the Zoom can carry everything. Okay, let's say we are paying 50,000 naira for renting the Zoom class. Whether we have 1, 5, 50, 99, or 100, we will still pay the same 50,000. But now, the moment we have 1 over 51 and 101, the Zoom cannot carry 101, and so it means the person who is unfortunate will be logged out. But if we have to cater for everybody, it means that we will have to get a class B and we'll need to spend additional money. That additional cost is incremental. So as we have a set of 100 students, we get another class, a set of new 100 students, our fixed cost is incremental. Then we have future cost. Now, future cost is a cost that you will make in the future. So it means that your exam fee, you have not paid that already, is a future cost. That is a relevant cost because you could change your mind. You could say, I am no longer writing the exam. You could say, okay, something came up and I had to use the money for another thing. So that future cost is relevant. Then we have avoidable costs. What are avoidable costs? Avoidable costs are costs that you can avoid. Now let's look at example of avoidable costs. Now, transportation costs can be seen as avoidable costs. Let's give an example. You are looking for where to attend tuition for PM. Okay, so I can say come to first choice, and you say you stay near first choice, it's very close to me. You could stroll down there, or you could pay maybe 100 naira down there. That's a choice. Someone will say, oh, I stay a bit far and I'll need to pay 500 naira. That's a choice. Why should I pay this 500 naira when there is another one near me? I can avoid that. Someone will say, okay, I'm from another state, let's say Ekiti State, and it will mean coming to Lagos. Should I pay that transport cost? I can avoid it. And here is another tuition center saying, come and learn from Zoom. Say, oh, why should I spend so much money on transport when I can just buy data and come to the class? These are avoidable costs. So that transport cost here is avoidable. You could as well stay in your house and read and pay no transport. Then we have the following are non-relevant costs. We have fixed costs absorbed. Now, once a fixed cost is being absorbed, fixed costs, unlike variable costs, fixed costs are not relevant. We cannot use fixed costs to make decision. They're already fixed in nature. So whether we are making any decision or not, we will still spend that cost. Then we have sunk cost. Now, cost made in the past. So you see now, this is a trick. Anytime you are looking at relevant costs and you are seeing them using a plural form to qualify the cost, it's already sunk. So it's been made in the past and it has no bearing. For example, you've already registered as an ICANN student. That's a sunk cost. You cannot make your future decision based on that cost you've done in the past or you had in the past. Now, committed costs. Committed cost is can be seen like a future cost, but it's not a future cost, it's a committed cost. Let me give an example. Let's say you register for this go-getter class, and let's assume that the fee is 50,000 and you have only paid 20,000, and you are saying, okay, at the end of this month, I'm going to pay the remaining 30,000. Now, if your salary is 200,000, you can't be planning with the whole 200,000. The 30,000 which you have committed yourself to is a committed cost. So you are just mentally removing that cost from your salary because it's as good as being spent. Now that is a not a relevant cost because it is already spent in your mind. It is seen like a sunk cost. Then another cost is cost that does not require cash flow, does not involve the actual use of cash. For example, depreciation. Depreciation is not involving cash because it is just a provision. It does not require cash flow. Then we have unavoidable costs. Now, unavoidable costs are costs that you cannot avoid. Now, let's go back to that transport we were saying before. Choosing a tuition house, you can avoid the transport by choosing a nearer center, by staying at home to read, or by coming to Zoom. But you cannot avoid feeding yourself. So whether you stay at home to read, whichever choice of transportation or center you go, you will still need to eat. And that feeding cost is not avoidable. So you cannot be choosing a tuition center based on your feeding costs, but you can choose a tuition center. One of the parameters could be transport costs. So transport cost is relevant, it is avoidable. Feeding cost is not relevant, it is not avoidable. Now that we've seen these characteristics of relevant costs with non-relevant costs, we are going to look at two types of relevant costs, which is relevant cost of direct materials and relevant cost of direct labor. So in your exam, you will be seeing relevant cost of materials, relevant cost of labor. So now let's examine them and see their relevance. Now, when we are looking at relevant cost of direct material, we shall be asking ourselves three questions. These questions are yes or no question. So the first question is the material available in stock? So it means that if we want to look at relevant cost of material, let's say we want to make bread and we need flour. Flour is a necessary material. So you ask yourself, is this flour material available in my store? Now, if your answer is yes, that means if you go to your store and you see flour, then you move to the next question. We'll come back to this question. Now, but if you go to your store and you find out that there is no material, that means you will answer no. So if there is no material and you want to make bread, what do? You will need to purchase these materials. You need to purchase them. And so the current market price or the purchase cost at the market, the current market price is relevant. So now you see, some people, when they want to sell something for you in the market, although maybe they bought it maybe 2,000 naira and they are supposed to sell it for 3,000 naira, and you come and you are pricing them 3,000. Some of them will call the market, what is this price of this product in the market now? And they say, the price has increased, so you will get it for, let's say, 2,800. The man will no longer sell for 3,000 naira again, even though he bought it then at 2,000. He will be looking at, how can I buy it again in the market? The current market price will influence how much it's going to sell. So it means that if you don't have the materials in your store and you want to go and purchase, the current market price is relevant. So that is for no answer. So what if you answer yes, that the material is in stock? So the next thing you will be doing is, you said move to the next question. The next question is, the material that you say is available in stock, are they in constant use by the company? So it means that material, the flour is available in the store. Is the company using this flour constantly? Now, if it is a bakery, they will be using it constantly. Or perhaps it's a bakery and they also use it for cake. So if it is not being used by the bakery department, to be used by the cake department. So they are in use constantly. So if you answer yes, what it means is that if you take it now, somebody else will need it and you need to replace them. And so the current replacement cost is relevant. Now, this replacement cost can be the same thing as purchase cost. But now look at the name we are giving to them. When the material is not in stock, you will go to the market and you purchase. But when it is in stock and you are using it, You will still go to the market to purchase. Why are you purchasing? You want to replace what was there before. In the first one, there was none, and you are purchasing. The second one, there was something, you are using it, and you are replacing it. So it could be the same cost, but look at the technical names given to it. Now, assuming that it is not being used constantly, it is not being used constantly, then that means you are answering no. You move to the next question, and that's the final question. The final question is, this stock of materials that is available in store but is not used constantly by the company, does it mean that it is scarce in supply? Because if something is scarce in supply, it may not be used constantly. Okay, because let's say you have a very good material you wear, or you have a very good thing that is scarce. You may not be using that thing always because you don't want it to get bad or to be depleted. So now if it is scarce in supply, that means you are answering yes. It means that the material has alternative uses. So if it is scarce in supply, it means it has alternative uses. So it's either you use it to do one thing or use it to do another thing. Then it means that the opportunity cost of the material for the alternative use is relevant. Now, if you answer no, it means that the material is not scarce. And if the material is not scarce, it's in abundance everywhere. That means the relevant cost will be zero because it's available in the store, it is not being used constantly, and it is available everywhere. The relevance is zero. The relevant cost is zero. But hold on a moment. Now, what if it is not going to be used? It is scarce, but it's not going to be used, but it's to be disposed of by the company. Then there is a cost of disposal. That cost of disposal becomes your relevant cost. So it means that we are not using it. The material is available in the store. It is not in constant use, and it is not scarce. But let's say it is harmful, it's toxic. You need to dispose of it. The cost of disposal is relevant. So now we can see the small diagram here, relevant costs, the three questions that we have to ask, and how we sort them out. So this is the diagram for the relevant cost for material. As we solve questions, you'll be seeing us using this diagram to solve our problem. Now let's look at an example to buttress our point. Grace Chica Limited has been asked to quote a price for one-off contract. The contract will require 5,000 kilograms. I will not read all this question now. I will go straight to how I usually attack questions. When I see a question, the first thing I do is to go to the requirements. Okay, so I will go to the requirements now, and I will attack the question from the requirements. Say required, identify the relevant costs of materials to assist management get what? Minimum price to charge for the contract. Okay, so we are going to go back to our whiteboard. So this is relevant costs. Uh-oh. So in relevant costs, we have material relevant costs. Then we have direct labor relevant costs. Okay, we've seen the three questions. Now we are taking direct material relevant costs. And we say this is Grace Chika example. All right. So let's see what we are asked to do here. Now they said Grace Chika has been asked to quote a price for a one-off contract. The contract would require 5,000 kilogram of material K. So we're looking at material K. So we have material K. Okay, material K is our focus here. Requirements required 5,000 kilogram. All right. So the first question we are going to be asking, we need 5,000 kilogram. Is if I go to our store, will I save 5,000 kilogram in my store? Let's find out. Material K is used regularly by the company. We'll come back. The company has 4,000 kilogram of material K currently in inventory. Okay, 4,000 kilogram is already in inventory. 1,000 will be needed. So it means that a purchase of 1,000 will be needed. So we have relevant costs to be 1,000 multiplied by how much cost? How much does it cost us? Now, which costs 400 naira per kilogram. The price, okay, it means that this 4,000 kilogram, we bought them for 400 naira. The price for material K has since risen to 420. So it's as good as calling the market. How much do you sell it now? 420. So we are going to use 420. So this is 420 naira. So that will give us 42, 420,000. So this is what we call purchase costs. So we need to buy 1,000 kilogram, purchase them so that we'll make up the 5,000. Okay. Now, as we buy this 1,000 to make up this 5,000, that means we've answered the first question. Is the material in store? We have partially answered yes. And we say when it is in store, we go to the next question. When it is not in store, we've answered that part. We went to buy. We've concluded the one of going to buy. Now, this 4,000 that we have in store already, is it in regular use by the company? The company says here that material K is used regularly. So it means that even if we went to buy 1,000, if we touch this 4,000, because we need 5,000, we touch the 4,000, we will still need to replace it. We will still need to replace it because somebody will come and need it. So this 4,000, we will still replace it. So this is relevant costs, 4,000. We still replace it at 420 naira. 420 naira. So that will give us how much? 420 multiplied by 4,000. That will give us 1,680,000. So that will give us 1,680,000. So this is called replacement cost. Although we are using the same amount to go and buy it. It could be as though we bought the whole 5,000 units or 5,000 kg. We bought the whole 5,000, but 1,000 was for additional purchase, 4,000 was for replacement. So it's as good as we didn't touch the one in the company, we went to buy our own. But meanwhile, as we are going to buy our own, we were using the one that is available. So as we are using it, we have gone to the market to go and buy to replace. Now we've answered that part. So the contract will also require 2,000 kilogram of material Q. So we'll come here again, material Q. Material Q. So before we finish, let's finalize for material K. What it will cost us. We have we already have 1,680 plus 420,000. That will give us 2,100,000. So this is 2,100,000. This is what we are going to spend for material K. So we'll go to material Q. In material Q, required is 2,000 kg. So we'll say require 2,000 kg. So the question you'll be asking yourself now is this 2,000 kg available in the store? Now, there are 1,500 kg of material Q in inventory. So what it means is that 500 is not available in the store. So we need to purchase 500. We will now say relevant purchase costs. It's going to give us 500 multiplied by how much will it cost us? Now they said, but because of a decision taken several weeks ago, material Q is no longer in regular use by the company. The 1,500 kg originally cost 144,000 and have a scrap value of 36,000. New purchases is where we are interested now. New purchases of material Q would cost 100 per kilogram, 100 naira per kilogram. So multiplied by 100, so that will give us 50,000. Okay, so additional one of material Q will cost us 50,000. Now, the other relevant cost for the 1,500. Now, what are we going to say about that 1,500? We will still need it. Now, they said if the material is available in store, which is the 1,500 kilogram, we move to the next question. And the next question is it in regular use by the company? We have said that it is no longer in regular use by the company. Now that means that if it were regular in use, if you buy, you are going to replace. But since it is not regular in use, you go to the next question. Is it scarce in supply? Now, they said it we are not told if it is scarce in supply or not, but the question does not give us any room to think if it is not scarce, but it gave us an alternative use. So that our relevant cost will be our opportunity cost. So I will say relevant opportunity cost, opportunity costs. Now, what is the opportunity cost here? We said the materials cost us 144,000. Originally cost us. So that is a sunk cost. That is a past cost. It is not relevant. So it means that if we don't use the material for this project, for this one-off contract, the company could sell that material Q for a scrap value of 36,000. So it's either we use it and don't scrap it off, or we don't use it and scrap it off. So 36,000 is our relevant cost. So we just put the 36,000. Now, is there any other thing again? No, that's it. So when we add this together, we have 86,000 naira. So if we are to add material K plus Q, that will give us how much? 2,186,000. So it's going to give us 2,186,000. Now this is the relevant cost of the material for the one-off contract. All right, so let's go to relevant cost of direct labor. Okay. Now, in order to determine the relevant cost of direct labor, we will also have to answer 3 yes or no questions. We will have to answer these 3 questions so that we can know the relevant cost of direct materials. So the first question is direct labor rather. The first question now is, now I need to make bread and I'll need labor. The labor that I need, the labor that I need and that is available right now, are they in permanent employment? Now there's 2 kinds of employment we have. We have permanent employment. It means they come and that's their work. They are coming to, you are paying them salary. So you hire them and you pay them on a monthly basis. Or we have a contract staff which you can fire at any time. You can use them today, tomorrow you may not use them. So the question is, the laborers available for you, are they in permanent employment? If the answer is yes, that means the time that they spend at work has already been paid for. because you are paying them salary. So it is their job to make this bread. So you move to the next question. But if the employment that is available is not in permanent employment, that means you will need to go and source, you will need to pay them hourly for the job. So if you don't have any permanent employment, it means you need to have to hire people to do the job. So it means the people you had, you think you had, you might have fired them off, or they don't, there is no employee already. So it means that you have to hire them and you have to pay them hourly for the new employment. So that becomes relevant. Now, in the first question, we say if they are in permanent employment, if you already have them on ground, they are permanent, you now move to the next question. You are now asking, this permanent employment, employed labor, do they have spare capacity? So it means that they are already working. You have them on ground. They are already working. But you need somebody to do this job for you. Perhaps it's not part of their job. You need them to do this job for you. Do they have the spare capacity to do the job? Now, what it means is that if they, here's a question, if they have spare capacity, the answer is yes. That means they have idle time. For someone to have spare capacity, the person has idle time. That means he has time he uses to press his phone, he has time he uses to play games. Otherwise, he should be working. You have idle time. And so that idle time will be used for the job. Hence, if a company has permanent employment with spare capacity or idle time, the company will not pay those people for that special job. Why? Because your time as a permanent employee has already been paid. So it means your idle time, your working time has been paid for your salary. Unlike people that are temporary in nature, you just call them and you pay them for the job they do. Permanent employees are not paid like that. Your salary has been paid. So that spare time you have, you'll be brought in to do the job at no cost to the company. Now, what if the company has no spare capacity? What if the people have no spare capacity? That means they don't have idle time. It means that the only time they have is their break time and closing time. So they don't have idle time. You move to the next question. Now, in the next question, because they don't have idle time, you'll be asking, since they don't have spare capacity or idle time, is overtime possible? So it means that if overtime is possible, maybe they are supposed to close by 5 o'clock, and you tell them, please, can you spare some 2 hours? Let's do this job every day, 2 hours. And perhaps can you come early, 2 hours before or 1 hour before? If our job supposed to start by 9, you are doing a 9 to 5 job. Can you come a bit early, say by 8, and let's use 1 hour for this project, then you go back to work. Then after your job by 5 o'clock, can we spend 2 more hours? 7 o'clock, then you go home. Then that means we have 3 hours overtime. If overtime is possible, that means your answer is yes. You need to pay the overtime rate. So it means you have to pay that overtime rate because that overtime is not part of the salary that you've paid them. They have worked for it with no spare capacity. But you told yourself, is overtime possible? Yes. I even told them that, oh, please come on Saturday. You don't work on Saturday, right? Please come on Saturday. Full day, I'm going to pay you for that special day for this project. And perhaps even on Sunday after service, still come to work. This is important. Overtime rate is relevant. Now, what if overtime is not possible? That you have tried every means, come on Saturday and Sunday, it's not possible. Please stay a bit early, come a bit early and stay a bit late. It's not possible. Then you must have to take drastic action. You must stop doing something to do another thing. So it means that that work you are doing, can you stop it for a moment? Can you, okay, let's say you are doing bread, but a customer wants cake, and that's a special order, and it is the same material and the same labor that you are going to be using. Can you stop this bread that you are doing for the moment and let's do this cake? Now you're going to look at the opportunity cost that will be lost during that period of time you are going to stop doing the bread in favor of the cake. And so the opportunity cost lost becomes relevant. So you need to consider that when you are doing the cake. Okay, so this is the diagram for the relevant cost of direct labor. We'll now go to the question now. Look at Augusta Chineye Limited has been asked to quote a price for a one-off contract. So this relevant costs you'll be seeing will be a one-off contract. And part of the characteristics is that even though it is a one-off contract, the materials that you are using for your normal job is what will be used for the one-off contract, or the labor is possible to be used in that one-off contract. Now, the contract will be done in their three departments known as Department 1, Department 2, and Department 3. So let's go straight to the question now. It said, required. What is the relevant cost of the contract of labor in the three departments? So let's go now and tackle this one. So this is Augusta Chineye Limited. So we have our Augusta Chineye Limited. Okay. Then we are asked to look for the relevant cost for the three departments. So we are going to take them Department 1, Department 2, and Department 3. So we start with Department 1. Department 1. Okay, so let's read it. The contract would require 200 hours of work in Department 1. So we look at required. So we have requirements. This is 200 hours. Okay. So now let's see. The first question we'll be asking is, the available workers, are they permanent in nature? Now they said where the workforce is paid 160 naira per hour for a fixed 40-hour week. So they said where the workforce is paid 160 hour for a full hour week. Now, what does this say? This is a salary. They have 160 naira for a fixed 40-hour week. So it is fixed. Sometimes you can hear them say guaranteed 40 hours. So whether you work up to 40 hours or not, you'll be paid this amount. Now, there is a permanent employment. Now, there are two ways you could know whether there is a permanent employment. One of them is this language they use here for a fixed 40-hour week, or you will say for a guaranteed hour week. Another thing you will also know is when they mention spare capacity, there is currently spare labor capacity. Only permanent employees will have spare capacity. Temporary employees will not have spare capacity because you are paying them according to the number of hours they work. So it means that the first question is answered. Is there a permanent employment? The answer is yes. We move to the next question. Do they have spare capacity? The answer is yes. So what happens? They said, and there are no plans to reduce the size of the workforce in this department. Since there is no current spare capacity, they will do the job in their spare capacity. So the relevant cost for department 1 is nil. So you say has spare capacity relevant costs is nil, which is 0. Now we're done with department 1. We now go to department 2. Department number 2. What is the requirement? What do we require in department 2? In department 2, the contract would require 100 hours of work. So we have 100 hours. 100 hours. Are they in permanent supply? Now, where the workforce is paid 240 naira per hour, and they said this department is currently working at full capacity, so there is no spare capacity. So you could come here and say no spare capacity. Now, if there is no spare capacity, the next thing to ask yourself is overtime possible? So they said the company could ask the workforce to do overtime work paid at normal rate plus 50% overtime premium. So let's calculate the overtime job. Now, overtime is calculated at normal rate. What is the normal rate? 240 naira per hour. So we will calculate 240 naira per hour, and we will need 100 hours plus the overtime premium of half of it. 50% of 240 times 100. So this will give us what? 24,000 plus 12,000, giving us 36,000. This is what overtime will give us. But then there is another option here. They said alternatively, the workforce could be diverted from the other work that earns a contribution of 80 naira per hour. So instead of doing overtime, opportunity cost is 80 naira per hour. So you will not say opportunity costs will be you will still pay the 240 naira times 100 hours plus the opportunity cost that you will lose 80 naira for diverting the time spent in that other department to doing this. So this one will give us 24,000. This one will give us 8,000. And when you add them together, it will give you 32,000. So the company is faced with two choices. So company will choose the least cost. The least cost, which is 32,000. So it means that instead of them to do overtime and the company spend 36,000, it's better for them to divert the time that they will be spent doing other things to come to this job and spend 32,000. Now after that, we go to department 3. Department 3, what is it asking us to do? The contract requires 300 hours of work. 300 hours of work. So our requirement here is 300 hours. Now, is there a current permanent employees where the workforce is paid for 200 naira per hour? Now they said labor in this department is in short supply. It's in short supply. So we need people who would come and do this job for us. They're in short supply, so we'll need to employ them. And the available time is spent making product Z, which ends the following contribution. So if the company are having short supply and they want to employ people to come and do this job, they are going to be paying them 240 naira per hour, right? Okay, so that is what we'll do. Now, plus, if they are not going to do that, then they are going to stop doing product Z, which ends the following contribution. It is earning 200 naira contribution per unit. Per unit. Okay, 1 unit, 200 naira. Now it is taking us 2 hours per unit. Okay, so this is what we are going to do now. In department number 3, we have 240 naira multiplied by 300 hours. Now plus the opportunity cost. Now let's look at this opportunity cost. This is for one product. How many units are they going to stop doing? How many units will they stop doing in order to come and do this job? So if 1 unit, okay, this is 200 naira per unit multiplied by, if 1 unit here now, 1 unit requires 2 hours. That means 300 hours will require how many units? 300 hours divided by 2 hours. That will let us know the number of units that is required. So 2 hours, 2 hours here is for 1 unit, and we need 300 hours. 300 divided by 2 is as good as saying 150 units will be forgone at that time. So what do we do now? This is going to give us something. 240 multiplied by 300, that gives us 72,000. Whereas here we have 300 divided by 2, which is 150. 150 times 200, that gives us 30,000. When we add these two, we have 102,000. So if we have to add everything together, department 1 is 0, department 2 we have 32,000, and department 3 we have 102,000. If we add them together, we have 134,000. Now that's your opportunity cost. That's your labor cost for 134,000 is your labor cost for the relevant direct labor costs. Okay, so far so good. We've looked at some relevant and non-relevant costs. We've looked at relevant cost of materials, and we asked 3 questions. Relevant cost for labor, we asked 3 questions. Now this is as the best way you can learn your relevant costs, asking those questions and applying them in your exam. So we'll be looking at assignment we want to do now, which I will give you for the period. We're going to look at the ones that have relevant costs. So this question 1. Okay, so we have, this is an assignment. This is an assignment for you. This is an assignment. This assignment 2. So I'll come here. November 2017. November 2017. Is it question 2? Yeah, question 2. November 2017. Question 2. It's another assignment for you. Let's see if we can get another relevant cost. There's another relevant cost. Assignment number 3. Assignment number 3. Let's mark it here. May 2017. Question 3. It's another assignment for you. Let's see if you can get more relevant costs. So these are 2 questions I want you to do as your assignment for me. Please don't be like the last time when only one person submitted his assignment. So this other question here, this is it. The first assignment is this one. So I want to see how you attempt it. so that when we come to the class the next time, we'll be having to do the correction and move on. I'll be only I'll only do one of these questions as the solution for you. So please try and apply all that we learned in relevant costing so that you can handle this assignment. So if you have any question from what we've just learned today, I want you to send me a WhatsApp message and I'll be glad to answer you and treat all your questions accordingly. So right now we'll be ending our class and I will see you in our next class, which holds on Friday.